totally dependable. Plumbing and electrical, 0800 get Laser.
Celebrating 25 years of Laser, I'm Kyle, the GM of Laser Group, and this is Laser Across the Network, where legacy meets leadership.
We're not going to be able to pay them if we don't get this money in. And we were having regular contact still with the company, and they were promising. And I just said, you need to come and sit with me, and I'm going to show you that we actually, if we don't get that money, we are actually going to be okay.
Hey, Michelle. So Michelle Harrex, Laser Electrical Alexandra. I've got you here today, and it's a tough topic to make fun. The reason that we've got you on the series is you've won now for 3 years in a row the Laser Group Safety, Health and Wellness Champion Award. And I think there's a lot to be said for that in terms of the way that you've adopted a culture, implemented systems, and that it's not a compliance piece for you. And I think that's really important to convey for people listening who do approach health and safety as this necessary evil rather than something you should do because it's good for business, it's good for your people, and it helps grow that culture and that business itself. But before we get into that, Michelle Harrex, Laser Electrical Alexandra, who are you?
Well, Kyle, who am I? I am the wife and business partner of Wayne and Laser Electrical Alexandra. We have been with Laser for just on 10 years and in business since next year will be our 20th year, and this just kind of evolved, I guess.
Yeah, and you might say it evolved, but you've got a pedigree from Australia, and I think one of the things you've spoken a lot about is the night and day difference between culture of health and safety, or safety, health and wellness in Australia compared to what you saw in New Zealand. So is that where your first sort of passion, for want of a better term, or your belief in the necessity of health and safety came from?
Definitely coming from Australia was quite an eye-opener to come back to New Zealand and see where New Zealand sat as far as health and safety and now wellbeing goes. It was quite a shock. Everybody just did whatever they wanted and there was no real, rhyme or reason to anything. I guess getting home and it was like, we've got to grow our business and we want to make sure that we've got our team is safe and everybody goes home, obviously, because that's the goal, isn't it? It's not all about compliance. Compliance comes with that, but to us it was like, let's build a really cool culture and have a really cool, safe team that get out there and are able to perform their job. And
you mentioned compliance and you mentioned culture almost in the same breath. If I thought about some generalizations of the industry, right? You might have a 25-year-old sparking on the tools who's bulletproof and thinks that health and safety isn't something they should have to comply to. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you might have the guy who's 60, 65 years old and who's not never had to do it, but goes, I've got to this age. Why are you telling me not to get onto the top of a ladder? So how have you supported that culture and move away from a compliance piece?
You also do have that, like you said, the young guy that are 6 foot tall and bulletproof and think that they don't need that. However, they are very responsive to learning and being involved, and making sure you can empower them to help make decisions is a really key factor in culture. You're not going to build culture if you don't include your whole team, because otherwise you're literally just dictating. And when you think about the older generation, they've been dictated to their entire lives. They just get told to go and do the job at whatever cost, just go and do the job.
And just the way that you're telling a story about you've got to bring people on the journey, you've got to involve them in the decisions. Laser, I guess, has got a number of tools that all of our members have the ability to use. Now, that can be as simple, for want of a better term, as Laser Pro. You've got Google Sheets, which you've adopted particularly well. And so how do those systems and how does Laser enable you to build that culture yourself?
Laser Pro is a really powerful tool in itself. We have our minor work safety audits within our Laser Pro, so that the guys get to a job, they open their app, they've got it all on their app, it's real easy, it goes directly to the job, they get to select what they're doing. If they've got anything that they haven't accounted for on the job, they can have a look around. There might be small children, they're a real hazard. If you're doing a job inside, installing something, they can actually go, oh yeah, we'll just add that there. And then we use our Google Suite for the big stuff, really, like our SSSP, like the whole safety management system was bought and built in our Google Suite.
Now, you've been able to build that safety management system because for the passion that you've got around health and safety, you've actually gone out and sought some further education in it, right? And so you've probably got some minimum expectations in your own business that might be appropriate for other people to be aware of listening, going, maybe I don't know what a triple SP is or what's a hazard register, why should I have it? What are the 5 things that you would say to someone listening to have in their business for health and safety and wellness?
The first thing you must have is a health and safety policy. Like, that's a key item. Ideally, you would have a proper health and safety management system, which would encase everything and show your team how to do whatever. Because if you are a residential electrician, for an example, and you are just mostly doing maintenance and servicing work, you should have, at the very least, a minor works safety audit. A hazard register, you should always have a hazard register. I engaged a consultant, a health and safety consultant, an independent lady from Christchurch, and she helped me build. Firstly, we started with the health and safety management system. So we got that up. We already had a policy, so that was fine. And then we started going, right, why don't we build our own forms? Why don't we make our own templates? And that's what we did. That's where it all began, I guess.
Now, a question to that, we were talking about Gemini last night over a wine as well, right? Gemini, and you give Gemini agenda, so you might say she can help me with
She's
X, Y, and
amazing.
Z. Do you see a role in AI supporting business owners like yourself to create these policies or revisit them? And how often would you revisit a policy?
Well, I revisit our policies annually. Yep. And sometimes, though, so I have to be very careful because I'm a little bit flippity-jippity all over the place at times. I'll go to do something and pull out a policy of something. We'll need to have a look at a document, and I will go, oh, I really want to change that. And I have to learn to stop myself from doing that, because I guess what I'm learning along this journey is that you got to make evidence-based decisions. Don't just change something for the sake of it. Just because that looks all flashy over there, I want that. If it's working for you, leave it alone because it's doing its job. Unless there's that's not working because this happened, we've had this many near misses and so this isn't working, this SOP isn't working, sure, change it. But you've got to be really careful, I think, that you set your dates to be annually reviewing your policies and procedures and stick with it.
You were talking before about, identifying children on site, for example, or looking for those things. Sometimes, in my opinion, we can run a risk of being too prescriptive. And so you go, hey, young Johnny, out on site, look for these 10 things and make sure that you're safe in each of these 10 things. But if they don't identify the 11th because we've not taught them to think for themselves. So how do you get your team to do that? How do you communicate to your team?
We have team meetings every week. Health and safety is included in our weekly team meeting. But it's never about you should see this many things or that many. It's just like go and check and make sure that you are aware of your surroundings and what you need to do to keep yourself, and if you're with a young apprentice, keep them safe, because young apprentices are like small children running around a house.
Now, there's debate for me across both the network, the member network, and the industry as to the best way to draw those sorts of stories out. And one of them is, if you've chopped your finger off, terrible example, but I'm using it, chopped your finger off, then you need to tell that story to the rest of your toolbox. The other side of that coin is, well, you're probably having people hide injuries because they're not comfortable talking like that in a toolbox. So how do you run a toolbox? Because some people might go, oh, she's nagging me again, or they're nagging me again, or oh, crikey, it's health and safety and I'm just sick of it. How do you actually keep it engaging? Because a lot of people are terrified of running a toolbox with health and safety in it.
It is hard, I can tell you that. To keep everybody engaged is pretty hard. I think we've started changing things up. Like, right, who's got the coolest near miss story this week? Like, let's talk about it. What have we got? Rather than going, right, there were this many near misses and I've noticed that we've got this or we've got that. It's like, we have really tall guys, and you know how the van doors with the ones that come up that way?
I don't have that problem.
You don't have that problem. I don't have
clear.
that problem. But sometimes I'm going, oh my gosh, be careful, guys. You're like, but they're all really aware because they're so tall anyway, and they're used to it.
Now, you're talking about near misses, and in a small business or smaller business like yours and Alex compared to a larger business in Auckland, there's still things that we can learn from one another.
Absolutely.
One of the things you've talked about is a central register for Laser to do this, right? And so some of those cool stories might come from old mate in Hamilton who had a near miss around something which would never come up in Alex, but that becomes interesting and so for something for people to think about, right?
Absolutely.
So someone listening to this now, if you could give 2 or 3 tips to make a start to improve their culture around health and safety.
My biggest tip would be for all the leaders out there to lead, to show that you are as passionate about everybody's health, safety and well-being as the next person. We are business owners, and these people work, and we are putting them at times in situations where they could be harmed, and nobody wants that on their conscience, having lived through a situation of that. That is not something that anybody wants to have. You have to give your team opportunity to speak without any prejudice. My generation, we need to remember and understand the diversity of our teams and how everybody learns differently and how everybody contributes differently. Because what might be, Malcolm and I had a discussion out there earlier about how our teams let us know that they're sick, and it's always via a text message. So if you're just going to sit around and go, you need to speak up at a meeting, you need to give us some ideas, well, you can't bully people to come up with that. You've got to put those opportunities, put a box, a little ideas suggestion box in your smoko room.
Can I just ask, you touched on that story, and is there any value in talking about that crises in your business and how you manage through for just 2 or 3 minutes?
I think there is, as far as if you were looking at a mental health and wellbeing perspective for a tradie. I think there is, because it was a lot.
Do you want to give wider context to, don't include names or sums of money, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of risk for you guys, right?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars of risk, and a company an international company, a company from the UK. We took on a job. It was a very big job, and we pretty much took on the entire project management, which we'd not done before. Things were going very well. It was all hunky-dory, lovely time. And then the way we set them up, because I'm not a trusting person, which is, I think, a good thing in business. I'm not a trusting person. The way we set it up was, right, obviously you're paying us from the UK. We will be invoicing every 14 days, and we will expect payment, and all good, happy days. And it went really well for, 8 months of the project. It was going very well. Leading into November, I obviously had trusted or started trusting the fact that the payments were coming in, so I didn't really have to panic too much, and probably took my eye off the ball, to be fair. And comes November, and we were hundreds of thousands, or at the time it was probably, not quite as bad as that, but it was getting up there, quite a lot of money. And so I was like, whoa, Wayne, wait, what's going on here? These guys haven't paid us I've just realised now they haven't paid us for the last 2 invoices. So started trying to communicate with them, and they were communicating by email. Yeah, it's okay, it's going to be coming, it's coming. So we're leading into Christmas, and then I had a good look at the invoicing coming up, and it was going to be 3 times the amount that they already owed us. And I was like, wait, we've got to stop work, we've got to hold everything. We've engaged all of the contractors, the subcontractors, everything is on us. We have bills coming in that were pretty much the same value as the ones going out. So stopped work and had to ring all of those subcontractors, and you could just see Wayne's just deflating in front of me. And it was kind of one of those times where you're like, shit, what are we going to do here? We've got a small crew. We have got a small crew. We had 5 or 6 guys, a couple casuals. What are we going to do here? These guys they've got responsibilities, they've got families, they've got mortgages, and we've got to be able to pay them. We're not going to be able to pay them if we don't get this money in. And we were having regular contact still with the company, and they were promising. And then we got a very unusual call that indicated that things were really bad and that we were up to lose everything because it was going into receivership. So we got a call from the receiver to find out how much they owed us and things like that. And so I could see Wayne was like, you could just see the weight, and it was like, holy shit, he has no idea. So I just said, you need to come and sit with me, and I'm going to show you that we actually, if we don't get that money, we are actually going to be okay. It's going to be shit, and it's going to be tough for a while, but we will be able to still pay everybody. We will be able to carry on, and we might take a great hit, but it is actually going to be okay. And you could just see that whole like, oh my God, thank God, because I was so worried about, we had many, many conversations about how to look after ourselves. And I said, at the end of the day, we just need to make sure we keep in check with each other, and that this is the outcome, the bottom line is that, yep, it's going to suck, but nobody's going to lose their job over this, and we are not going to go bankrupt or anything like that. Nothing like that's going to happen. We just have to hope and pray that maybe they will pay us. But we'd written it off. We'd literally written it off. A couple of weeks later, we got another phone call to say that the business, there were 2 people vying to buy the business. We did a meeting with, obviously the original owner was trying to source the funds to get it up and running again, and then somebody else was coming to buy in from another company. And we'd have a meeting with him. And, of course, I'm as untrusting, and I just sat there because I'd been told so many times, you're going to get your money, you're going to get your money, you're going to get your money. Well, how? How are we going to prove that? And he wanted our guarantee that we would continue the project. So we literally were the only, they couldn't do it without us, basically. We were so far in that there's no way anybody could pick up this work if we chose not to do it. So he wanted our guarantee that we would continue. But I'm like, I want your guarantee you're going to pay me the day that you take this sale, that it goes through. And he was like, I'm going to pay you the day. Okay, we'll do it. They took over the business and the money was in our bank the next day. But yeah.
And maybe we'll use that segue from a safety, health and wellness piece, because Michelle, I heard you
and saw
you
a bit emotional.
choke up a wee bit, right? But you're thinking about your team, you're thinking about, you mentioned the word bankruptcy, but you talked about the way that you managed with Wayne, who is quite obviously deflated, and maybe where that partnership between 2 people in a business hold one another up. And maybe that's where the Laser Network's really good too. Now, personally, I learned a lot because I didn't feel like we did enough to look after you. I did enough to look after you.
I don't know what would you have done though? Like, what could you do?
Yeah, we
have talked about that, haven't we?
We have, and I've seen, frankly, a couple of mental health real challenges across our network, and the way that we approach it now is absolutely different to how we've looked after you. And there's fallout or other people around those instances, and I think that's where we've got a lot better. I want to take that segue, if I can, really quickly, Michelle, where you go, generations are different. I think there is sometimes a generational divide between a business owner and the people they're employing. So you might have a 50-year-old employing a 20-year-old, right? And we go, oh, that fucking snowflake, if I can talk like that, you know, he's sick again. And maybe where those people of a different generation, 50, 60, what have you, have been told to suck it up and you should always be there, be stoic, you can't talk to people about feelings. We're sort of verging into the mental health and the wellbeing piece. How do you look after people's mental wellbeing?
That's a really good question. It's really difficult, to be honest. Whilst we're trying to look after our team, we're also learning about it at the same time, which is pretty tricky. I think, again, you have got to empower your team to bring you ideas of how you can help them. So you can't just go, oh, well, we're just going to do this. We're going to offer our team the EAP program, right? Fantastic program. But do they know how to use it? Have you reminded them about it? Do you talk about it in your team meetings that, guys, did you see this newsletter? So but that's only one thing, and some people wouldn't want to utilise that. So ask, what else could we do? Could we offer, we just did a survey, to be honest. We've just done a staff survey. It's anonymous, so I don't care who you are, just tell me what you feel. What would you like to see as part of your health and wellbeing program? We've got gym membership's been a real big one because that's physical.
Exercise.
Yep, it's cool. Financial support, budgeting. How do I buy my own house? Because we've got a young team, so they're like, yeah, we want to learn about this. We've got flexibility with our hours. And I'm like, this is so good because we've not asked that question before because it's not really been something that's been a priority.
Do you think that business owners, and again, maybe it's a generational thing, but are afraid to ask anonymous questions to their team for what they might hear back?
Maybe. It is always a wee bit daunting. Yep. So I mixed it up a little bit. I put about, do you find your job challenging? How challenging is it? How often do you go home really stressed? Do you feel like you get paid well, moderately well, poorly? Like, those questions, when you get that back, you're like, ooh.
We ask that question. My pay here is fair for the work that I do. And it's always the lowest result, right? And so, again, they're difficult questions to face into, but people will be going, I don't want to ask those questions because they're hard to hear the answers to, or it's not important to understand that someone should have a gym membership. So how do you identify it was something to do?
It was like, wow, yeah, this is really cool because I can see how we can make improvements.
I think this is something so valuable from a Laser perspective because Michelle's good idea shouldn't just stay Michelle's good idea. Michelle's good idea can be surfaced up and then it becomes the responsibility of the group to adopt it. And I just want to close with that last question as you're going, budgeting's important, exercise is important, EAP or employment assistance program is important. If you could give, again, an owner or someone listening to this 2 or 3 tips as to how to support themselves and their team through mental wellbeing, what would they be?
I think as an owner, you have to take, and I know we hear this a lot, I haven't got time for that, or I haven't got you. You have got time for that. Just stop it. Make some time for it. Reach out. We have to learn to reach out as well. That's probably a really big thing because we know what tradies are like. Again, you've got to engage with your team and you've got to make them feel like they can come to you, that they can suggest. No idea is a shit idea, is it? Like, you've got to take them all and go, yeah, that might work. Let's give that a go.
And it's very difficult to be able to encourage that no dumb ideas because people still feel, and you said that Kiwi trading mentality sometimes is, oh shit, I don't know if this is valuable and I'm going to keep my mouth shut. One thing which I have seen from a mental wellbeing perspective, we can talk to maybe not the person who we see struggling, but the person who's closest to them and go, hey, how's old mate getting on? And they might go, well, fuck, he's having a tough time at the moment, or she's having a tough time.
Yeah.
And the real benefit of the group is we can then see that people will reach out because they genuinely care for a pie and a pint. And that pie and a pint is a really good opportunity to sit down with a mate and go, how's it actually going? And that for me has been a very powerful perspective of the network where we care and we support one another and we actually help people get through.
Definitely. If you can take them out of one environment and put somebody in another one, you might find that things
again, we
change.
get busy and we go, we're on this mouse wheel and we can't get out of it and I'm working 7 till 7 or 7 till 8. But that invite for a beer from someone else, someone who you trust and who is a mate, you go, actually, I do have time for that. And that can just be that little circuit breaker that's really important. For today, Michelle, listen, I could pick your brains all day and I know you could talk all day around.
Do you think?
Do I think? Do you think?
I don't know. I've never tried it, but I could try.
We're not going to do it today. Heaven forbid. No, I think for the impactful 2 or 3 tips that you've provided, both in the physical health and safety sense and the mental health and safety sense, and even going, there are things that we should do as business owners we are uncomfortable doing or being vulnerable around surveying our team, there is some gold to come from it. And I think those things that you've identified around even finance is really important because if there's stress around money, which is such a big part of why we all live or how we all live, you know, if we can solve that for people or help contribute to solve that for our people, that's really important. So for me, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed the episode, subscribe, like and follow where you get all your podcasts, give us a review and find us at lasergroup.co.nz. And here's to another 25 years.
0800 get laser.